All rise. Judge Liman has ruled, and he said, let the discovery begin. Plus, we have a biased new documentary that details the case between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Lots to get into. I hope you're ready for it. Let's dive in. You're listening to No Filter with Zack Peter, your go-to source for all the latest pop culture and reality TV tea, served fresh all week long. Now, let's dive in. What's going on, guys? What's going on? Whew. Forgive me. I had to get a red eye coffee from Starbucks. I was out of coffee, and then our coffee machine here in the building was out of coffee. So then I had to run to Starbucks because last night I've been imbibing more with the plant-based medicine, if you can read between the lines. And I don't smoke, but I'll do a gummy, or I'll take the little carbonated seltzers. And so I got some. A brand sent me some, and so I was trying them out last night. I was like, oh, I kind of like this. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'm kind of craving a little wine with dinner. And then I mix the two, and sometimes a little crossfade is a fun time. But whew, I woke up a little groggy this morning. I slept good. My goodness, did I sleep good? Oof. But I slept very well. But April Fools. No, oh, sorry. I keep forgetting today's April Fools. There are no April Fools jokes. I just want to be clear. I'm not one of those people that does April Fools. So there are no April Fools jokes. Sorry. Jokes aside. But I just need a little extra espresso this morning. I had to skip the gym because I hurt my foot. All the things. Just all the things. Zack is a stoner. All is forgiven. I'm not a stoner. I literally am so the opposite of a stoner. But lately, I've been dabbling. I've been let me explore, because brands reach out and they're like, we would love to work with you. And I'm like, well, let me at least try. Let me try the stash first. And Zack, I wanted donuts this morning, and I was scared that it would make me a Blake Lively fan if I buy a donut. Oh no, should we get donuts with Blake? That would be the plot twist none of us are waiting for. Dab on Zack, good medicine. Yeah, I'm learning. Have you tried Adams? Oh no, I haven't. I was like, Adams, like the Adams family. No, I haven't tried his yet. I have to place an order soon. It's not THC, it's only CBD though, I believe. I may be mistaken. Um, so yeah, you dabble, Zack. Yeah. My money don't jiggle jiggle. It folds. I'd like to see you wiggle wiggle for sure. So I watched the new ID, which is Investigation Discovery. They released it's an edited version of the version that aired in the UK, which is this new documentary, new docuseries. It's kind of all the trend, right? All the rage. Everybody does it. It's called In Dispute: Lively versus Baldoni, and this is the new documentary that has since come forth for. Well, it's the first official documentary. I know Popcorn Planet, Andy from Popcorn Planet here on YouTube. He did a documentary. It's not this. I'll tell you that right now. It's not In Dispute: Lively versus Baldoni. It's actually seemingly a lot better. I was in it. Donna Bowling's in it. I think a bunch of other people are in it as well. And I have just a lot of critiques with this. I guess let's start with this, right? So it's called In Dispute: Lively versus Baldoni. And at first, going into it, I was like, okay, kind of seems a little objective, seems unbiased. It kind of seems like they're just telling us the story of what happened. I feel like there were a lot of pieces that were conveniently left out. They really only focused on Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, which understandably, they're the two biggest names to come out of this, right? But I feel like there are so many other pieces and players. The way that it's presented makes you think, oh my God, she was harassed and he's just, he's fighting back, but he's, maybe he's telling the truth, maybe he's not. They kind of insinuate, which seems to be a common narrative lately, that this was just a big misunderstanding. I'm curious if this is part of her former CIA crisis PR dudes workings, is to kind of just let the public believe that this is a matter of perception, right? What did they call it? Remember we broke it down a few weeks ago, the number 9 and the number 6, and depending on which side of the number you're staring at it from, it's gonna look like one or the other. So I feel like that seems to be the new narrative, that maybe it is Blake Lively's team that's trying to put out there. Sorry, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb because I learned how to do that. What was it called? Do you guys remember the term that was used, though? It was where they're looking at the 6 and the 9 from 2 different angles, and they're like, "Oh, we're seeing the same different well, obviously, Laura, it's called different perspectives, but there's a specific term for it. Like, a Mandela effect is a term for, like, when you remember something and it's different from how you remember it. And so people are like, is that the Mandela effect? Because we thought he was in jail and he wasn't. Oh, Rosh Hashanah. Yes. What is it? Rosh Hashanah? Roshaman. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Suri. Laura's like, it's called a different perspectives. Girl, we know that it's called different perspectives. You think I just fell out of a coconut tree? She's like, it just means they see it differently. No shit, Laura. Love you, Laura. I do love you. Laura, I tease her all the time. So yeah, that kind of seems to be what the narrative is. And I'm thinking, should Blake Lively lose her case, they can really just play it on that. Well, like, she felt this way and he just felt differently. Like that wasn't his motive, but that's how she felt. And so it kind of gives us that caveat. It gives her an opportunity to, pass the buck off and be like, well, that's not just how that's not just what happened. My feelings matter. Hashtag Blake Lives Matter, Where can we watch the Popcorn Planet documentary? It's not out yet. We just taped it a couple of weeks ago. I actually have to let me text Andy and be like, yo, bro, when is the documentary dropping? I don't know if it's anything soon or he wants to release it at the end, but he just said he remembers the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial and how the Depp v. Heard coverage at the time, as it was breaking in real time, afterwards when they started doing all these documentaries and recaps of it, that he's like, that's not how it played out. Very similar to the Blake Lively smear campaign, which I do have to tell you guys, when it comes to the smear campaign, it's funny because there was a clip that came up from when we were taping the Pop Report when this was originally going down. Let me see if I can pull it up for you guys. And I was just like, I felt like I had fallen out of a coconut tree because I literally used the word campaign. I said I think I call it a takedown campaign. I was like, there's this takedown campaign against Blake Lively. Because I remember covering this as it was breaking in real time, and I was like, oh my God, I actually used the term campaign. Here, I'll pull it up for you. But so anyway, Andy decided to make his own version of the documentary. That way we can kind of keep it true to what we remember going down. Okay, I'm going to pull this clip up for us in just a sec on the Tickety Talk. But I watched In Dispute. It seemed a little objective going into it. And then as things continued to play out, it just felt like they very much wanted you to trust in the sanctity of harassment and how we have to protect victims and protect survivors. And to me, I'm just like, yeah, but we were missing the total part where like he's suing her for defamation, right? He's claiming that these allegations are completely false and made up. So for me, it's kind of like, I don't know how I feel about that, because he's saying this didn't happen. So this whole narrative of like, we have to still believe survivors, but like still believe victims. I absolutely agree with that. But at the same time, if this man is being falsely accused, if the things that she's accusing him of doing are not true, then this isn't just a matter of perspective. And this is also not just a matter of, not believing victims. Like that's not the case at all. And in this, it feels like she's intentionally and deliberately being disingenuous to the audience, to the public. Actually, audience is a more appropriate term, because it feels like this is something that is being played for a charade in front of the public. But the documentary leaves out the Ryan Reynolds piece of it all. It leaves out, her intentions behind hijacking the potentially hijacking the sequel, they show a clip of Justin Baldoni where he talks about like, oh, I don't know, like he kind of alludes to maybe not wanting to be part of the sequel, and so they're like, oh, that must mean that he was going to give her the rights to it. Like they kind of lean into those insinuations and implications. But to me, it was just interesting. They have this attorney on there. I think something Doll is her name. I was texting Donna about it this morning, and she was like, "It's called Doll. Her name's Doll. Something Doll. What's her name?" Um, mm, oh yeah, Mia Schachter's in it. Dina Doll is, I guess, her name. She's in it. She's the only attorney that's in it. They play a clip of Brian Friedman when he wants to sue Blake Lively into oblivion. But I mean, like, if you're gonna have one attorney on there, then have an attorney or have three different attorneys. One attorney that's seemingly pro Blake, one attorney that is seemingly pro Baldoni, and one attorney that's a little more objective, right? Because this attorney makes it very clear that like she thinks Blake Lively has the stronger case and she believes Blake Lively. And if you're only looking at it from the lens of Blake Lively, that does add up, right? She's making these allegations. She had this no more list, which again, I remind people the list has changed 3 different times. It was a 17-point list and a 30-point list and a 20-point list. So that continues to change. She's from Midas Touch, the Midas Touch Network. Okay, good for her. So yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people are coming to the conclusion that Blake is not telling the truth. Wendy says it, Stephanie says it. Yeah, which I agree. Bottom line, Blake lied and manipulated. That's what it seems. That's how it appears. But the crazy part is, even as I was watching the documentary, I was like, do I have it wrong? Like, am I not looking at this objective enough? And I often ask myself that question, and then I refer back to the evidence. But this attorney specifically is like, we don't know what the evidence is. We have no evidence. They gave us this video footage, but the video footage, people can look at it 2 different ways. And then they have this, this they them BuzzFeed reporter that's in it too, and she, you can tell, is very much pro Blake. Now, to be fair, they do have like Kirsty Flood, the Little Bump reporter, and they have Perez Hilton. Those are the 2 people that are very clearly, more on the side of Baldoni. You can tell just based off of, their statements. I feel like they took some of Perez Hilton's comments a bit out of context, only because I know where he stands on things, and just the way you can hear, like the way certain words or certain statements are clipped. It kind of feels like they made him seem a little more objective, and so he was kind of the closing voice that they gave for the Baldoni side, and which basically just confirms that the internet is on Baldoni's side. And then they have the attorney who kind of is the closing voice for the Blake side, and she's just like, I think Blake has the stronger case. And when you have an expert that's an attorney that's willing to go on record and say that, and that's the final voice of the expert side, then that kind of does lead the audience to lean more towards believing Blake. But I mean, in our country, you're innocent until proven guilty. And I think we have yet to see any evidence that supports Blake Lively's claims, where at least we do have some evidence. You can argue whether that evidence is in favor of Baldoni or not, like the footage, like the voice note, which, they obviously don't show the full footage and they don't show the full voice note. And I feel like just the way they did show it kind of leads you to believe that Baldoni's a bit of a creep. Whereas if you dig a little deeper, you can kind of put more of the pieces together of what seemingly happened, right? What we believe may have happened. Because at the end of the day, we don't know the actual truth. We weren't there for it. I wouldn't um I wouldn't watch it if I were you. There's nothing new in it, and there's, like I said, so many pieces and players. Jenny Slate's not even mentioned in it really. Brandon Sklenar is barely referenced in it, and only as somebody that has openly come out and supported Blake Lively. We don't hear much about the Ryan Reynolds piece of it, because you have to remember, Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively, Leslie Stone, the New York Times, like Justin Baldoni is not just alleging defamation. He's claiming that they colluded to take him down. And so we hear a lot of Blake's different remarks, and they're like, oh my God. And she had a 30-point list of all these things, and they're very specific as to things that he did. And he's just saying that that's not how he remembers them, and he remembers them going down very differently. So I would say let's take a beat on In Dispute Lively versus Baldoni. I watched it on Max this morning, but it's also an investigation ID. So the ID network or Max, you can watch it there. I got a new Max subscription. I haven't subscribed in a while, but then I was like, everyone's talking about White Lotus, but it's kind of slow and like whatever. So Yeah, I would not listen, watch if you wanna watch it. It's under an hour, so it's an easy kind of get through, but it's just you don't have a lot in there. And then the Mia Schacter of it all, she's just such a random weird she's also and I don't mean this derogatorily or in a derogatory way, but, she's also like a, they, them, non-binary, bisexual, all the things. Like, when she was doing interviews, she was like, "I identify." They're like, "So how would you describe yourself?" And she's like, "I would identify as da 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 da." Okay, thank you. Next, so she's the intimacy coordinator, and she's just like in the role, like I don't know, just some of the people that they had in the doc. It felt very Hulu documentary, and that's not any shade to anybody that's in it. It's a very Hulu documentary. It's meant to be sensational, and it's meant to be, to capture you at the headlines. Or even like that's how Ryan Reynolds gets referenced is the SNL joke that he made. It's like, yeah, and he just made a little joke. It's like, yeah, but the context is what you're missing in this documentary. He just made a little joke about this big harassment case, this big lawsuit that your wife has lodged against Baldoni, who's fighting back. Like it's a big case that you don't really want to be joking about it, right? It's not so yummy at the end of the day. So, okay, let's move on to Judge Liman. Judge. Oh, actually, here's the clip. Let me play the clip for you of when we were originally covering this Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni drama, the drama saga.
Okay, we need to talk about this whole Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni stuff because I have a lot to say.
We
Okay,
talked
say
about
it.
it like
We
our last
talked about it a little
episode,
before,
but there's more.
but there's
Okay.
a lot that's come out because now there's this like anti-Blake campaign that's going on.
Really?
And I'm low-key living for it.
I'm starting to think about just like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Like everybody's like, love them. They're so attractive. Love their goofy relationship. But like now I'm starting to think like the way they treat each other online in front of everybody. I'm like, what is it like behind closed doors? I bet you're both awful people. Like I bet you're both just like really terrible because the interview that she did, I don't know what, maybe it was an Australian reporter or she did that interview with a reporter.
Oh yeah.
And the reporter had known she was pregnant and
Yeah.
said, oh, I love your bump. And then she goes, love your bump. And I was like, okay, well, that was crazy.
That's a wild remark to also hit back with.
Yeah.
I know. And the reporter's like, I wanted to cry in that interview. I was like, I would have wanted to cry too. Imagine Blake Lively pokes at your pot belly. So the interesting thing is in this clip, I do use the term anti-Blake campaign, but I meant that as more of like the audience was trying to take her down. But it's just funny that I did happen to use that word in that clip. And obviously we covered Blake and Baldoni and the drama. I mean, it ends with us drama because nobody really knew who Baldoni was, at least not the way we all do now. But yeah, I just thought it was funny that I specifically say and there's this anti-Blake campaign, but it did kind of feel like the internet was just coming after Blake, but it felt like that because they were all like now starting to talk about what a diva and what a terrible person she's been to work with for all these years. Gigi says, intimacy coordinator is a pretty new job starting in like 2021, 2022. I read the job requirements on SAG, the webpage, and it gives the training and workplace required to become certified. Yes. And also like the role of intimacy coordinator, the role of an intimacy coordinator. Look at so this is what an intimacy coordinator does. And we'll get into the Judge Liman ruling with Andy and Leah in just a sec. But an intimacy coordinator is a professional who ensures that intimate scenes in film, TV, or theater are safe, respectful, and consensual, acting as an advocate for actors and a liaison between actors and production. So usually you can elicit the support of said intimacy coordinator if you have an issue, right? Here is a detailed breakdown of their role. They advocate and liaison. They work as a point of contact between actors and the production team, ensuring that everyone is aware of safety protocols and the actors' boundaries are respected. They're also they do choreography and safety. They help choreograph intimate scenes, ensuring the actors are comfortable and safe and that the scene looks believable and artistic. They facilitate open communication between actors, directors, and other film members, ensuring that everyone is on the same page and the actors are giving informed consent. They analyze scripts to identify scenes that require their expertise and work with the director to determine the specifics of those scenes, including the degree of nudity, simulated sex, and other intimate physical contact. They can provide on-set support. They are present on-set during the filming of intimate scenes, providing support and guidance to the actors and production team. Intimacy coordinators often have training in consent, anti-harassment, movement. What is it, training in consent? What does that mean? Like, I feel like consent is pretty clear, yes or no. It's pretty cut and dry. But I mean, okay. But like, if you're having to train an intimacy coordinator about consent, then like, how do everyday people know what consent is? Do we have to go to consent training for an anti-harassment training, movement coaching? Wow. What is movement coaching? You can suck my lip like this, but not like that? Like, we can like, what do you study the art of dry humping? They're not the sex police. It's important to remember that intimacy coordinators are not about suppressing creativity or imposing rules, but rather about providing a safe and comfortable environment for actors to perform. They have different titles: intimacy coordinator or intimacy director is what they're called. They ensure actors are comfortable with the level of nudity and the simulated sex. They help actors feel safe and comfortable during those scenes. They work with designers to ensure the modesty of garments and barriers are used appropriately, facilitating open communication. Okay. Also, important to note that intimacy coordinators are not legally required. They are just suggested by SAG. So this is, as mentioned, something relatively new. And so, just trying to show everybody the role. Like, it's all very new. Francis says, just so many mandatories at work. I feel I understand it, and this is not it. I mean, are they in charge of mood lighting and wine choices? I don't know. Stephanie says, Zach, what do you think about the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni? What do you think it is about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds that makes them appear untouchable? Like, if Blake Lively has truly been awful to so many for so long, which I believe, why has she not been held accountable? Well, because the accountability comes from the people, the public, the internet, which is ultimately what happened. There was a reckoning that came and her behavior was brought to light. And I think it really is because it seems like she's weaponizing these allegations against Baldoni, and you can put as many biased documentaries in front of us, it's not gonna land. But with why are they untouchable? WME and Vision PR, like, just the team that they have around them is a very powerful team in Hollywood. And when Hollywood used to control the public the way that it was before, with the way they would control the press and the way that everything was very smoke and mirrors. But like I said, we've seen The Wizard of Oz at this point. It's all being exposed. It's slowly been cracking over the last several years. And now I just feel like the floodgates are opening up, and now we see through all of this. So the power was in the smoke and mirrors of Hollywood. The power was, in the games and media manipulation that they no longer are able to control. Okay, let's move on from Blake and Baldoni, and let's talk about Andy Cohen versus Leah McSweeney. So we've gotten a new ruling in the Leah McSweeney lawsuit against Bravo, Andy Cohen. And funny enough, Judge Liman is the judge for both the Blake and Baldoni case and also the judge for Leah and Andy Cohen's case. So to recap, why is Leah McSweeney suing? So Leah McSweeney was formerly on the Real Housewives of New York. She was on it for, I believe, only 2 seasons, and then she did the 3rd season of the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip spinoff, where a bunch of different housewives from different cities go on vacation. They went to Thailand this season. And so she's suing Andy Cohen, and she's suing Bravo, claiming that they pressured her to drink and exploited her alcoholism so that they can have this bonanza ratings. And they created a toxic and discriminatory work environment because she has alcohol use disorder. Everybody's so creative. So, okay. She's claiming that they encouraged her to abandon her sobriety. She maintained it for 9 years. It was interesting because, well, okay, let me get through the overview of the case, and then I'll give you the contradictions in it. She said that there was a toxic workplace culture, unlike Justin Baldoni, that has a toxic positivity culture. She said that they didn't accommodate her disabilities because her disability is alcohol use disorder, and they didn't accommodate that. She claims that they retaliated and discriminated against her when she wanted to stay sober. They intentionally were trying to exploit her disabilities, which is alcohol use disorder. That's her disability. And she claims that Andy Cohen engages in pasta, which is that stuff, the little snorty stuff, she claims that he engages in that with housewives that he likes and uses, whether they imbibe with him as, how he makes decisions regarding production and casting, etc. He's denied everything. And so he filed a motion to dismiss Leah's lawsuit. But now it appears the discovery will be moving forward because Judge Liman has agreed to push the case forward. So Leah got a small win, but she had this list of I think it was 33 different claims. Yeah. There were 33 civil counts that she mentioned, and Judge Liman nixed, I think, all but 3 of them, I want to say. Let's see. Courthouse News Service says, Okay, New York federal judge on Monday drastically trimmed a discrimination and retaliation lawsuit against Bravo brought by one of the former stars of The Real Housewives of New York City, Leah McSweeney, with just 3 civil counts advancing beyond the motions to dismiss. So it seems like the Bravo parties, do we want to call them the Bravo parties or the Andy parties? They seem to have gotten a bit more of a win. Wait, isn't nose candy? Oh, is that what it's called? Nose candy? Oh. Brigitte says, I used to be a producer and I never met an actor or personally in LA who wasn't using. Yeah, they all seem to be using and abusing. But here's the thing. Even if Andy Cohen is using and abusing, that's his own prerogative, that's his own responsibility. When it comes to Leah McSweeney, she was claiming that she was sober and that they forced her to break her sobriety. But it's so interesting because very much like Blake Lively, there are so many inconsistencies in Leah's story as well. Because I remember when she joined Real Housewives of New York City, her first season, she had claimed that I believe it was 6 months prior to filming her first season of Real Housewives, she claims that she broke her sobriety. So this is pre-production. This is before the show even began. She had already began drinking again. And so she was drinking throughout the duration of the show. She was not drinking when she filmed the spinoff, Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, which was taped in Thailand. Then she was not drinking, but it's wild because there are so many clips from then when she was sober, which actually I don't want to say sober as in I'm questioning her and that's why I'm using air quotes, but sober as in it just appears, that's the juxtaposition of when she was last on the show, where she was very much not sober. But so in those scenes, I remember she was like, you guys are boring. She would tell the other housewives at dinner. She'd be like, you guys are boring. Order some shots. And then they would be like, what are we, your circus monkeys? You want us to get drunk and perform for you? And she's just like, well, you guys are boring. So it's if she's the one that's encouraging the other women to drink to be more interesting, that's kind of interesting that she's then saying that that's what producers are doing. But so anyway, Judge Liman, he filed this 100-page ruling, literally a full 100 pages. I'll actually pull it up for you here. I don't think we'll be able to get through all of it because, like I said, it's 100 pages. So there's a lot going on. But so it's against Leah McSweeney. The defendants are Andy Cohen, Lisa Shannon, John Paparazzo, Darren Ward, Warner Brothers Discovery, Shed Media, NBC Universal, Bravo Media, and the judge allowed some of her claims. For purposes of this motion, the court accepts as the true and well-pleaded facts of the First Amendment complaint as supplemented by the documents incorporated by reference. And then he gets into all of it. And so basically, just to give you the recap of where we at, she sued them. She claims that I believe she launched this last February, so a little over a year ago. And she claims that they engaged in guerrilla-type psychological warfare and that they badmouthed her performance because she got boring when she got sober. I was like, well, the audience kind of said that. The producers didn't need to say that, but whatever. They had a hearing back in November 2024. She said that it was a toxic workplace. And so the judge granted the motion to dismiss for majority of her civil counts. It says, Judge, this is coming from Courthouse News Service, and this was this morning. First Amendment, granting motions to dismiss on more than half of McSweeney's 33 civil counts, U.S. District Judge Louis Liman mostly concurred with the company's First Amendment rights to produce a reality television show based on drinking, and consequently the right to determine their vision can be conveyed only by showing actual alcohol consumption. So they didn't put Leah in this environment. The show is about women. The women are drinking. They have to be able to tell the story naturally. If the alcohol's there, it's up to the women to drink or not to drink. They claim that they didn't pressure her to drink. Liman says, defendants have established from the face of the complaint that they had a First Amendment right to choose to make a show that celebrated a party life and the drinking of alcohol, and to determine that their vision could be conveyed through reality television and not through scripted scenes. They had a corresponding right to cast only persons who could consume large quantities of alcohol. Casting a person who could act out drinking but imposes limits on her actual drinking would interfere with the producer's First Amendment rights to deliver an authentic message. To hold otherwise would be to limit the types of messages and experiences that could be authentically portrayed. So it kind of seems like Bravo's argument is like, listen, we were making a show about a bunch of drunks. Leah McSweeney just happened to get cast on this show about a bunch of drunks. And she kind of knew that. Like, the show has been about this. I mean, we've seen, Luann and Sonia and Dorinda. Like, these women very clearly have drinking problems, right? We saw Luann get arrested for hitting a cop because that wasn't on the show, but that was a New Year's Eve party or something. So Leah kind of knew what she was signing up for when she agreed to become a cast member of this show. Okay, so Leah's lawyer says that they're grateful for his care in his 100-page decision that kept the majority of the major claims against the defendants, and continues to give full life to Leah's lawsuit and another step closer to holding the defendants accountable. I love how her attorney is here being like, "Thank you, Judge. It's amazing. You were so dedicated. You did you wrote this up in 100 pages. That's so dedicated of you, Judge." When most of the pages are really about why her claims don't stand up, right? Why they don't have legs, why her case doesn't have teeth, with exception for now she only has 3 teeth left. It's crazy how you go from 33 to 3. But Leah's lawyer continues by saying, while we disagree with the findings on the minor claims and will certainly be filing an amended complaint to address his questions, this decision is not a scorecard. It was an affirmation that there are serious claims and that they will proceed in court. 3 claims. 3 claims. Leah says that she was fired after starring in seasons 12 and 13 of The Real Housewives of New York City from 2020 to 2021, but she refused to relapse into alcohol use disorder for the following season. Okay, so she wasn't necessarily fired in any relation to her drinking. She was fired because season 13 was a terrible season of Real Housewives of New York. A lot of people blamed both Leah McSweeney and Ebony K. Williams, who joined that season. But it was just a train wreck of a season. And I think Bravo did a terrible job. I don't think they wanted to fire Ebony because they didn't want, whatever retaliation would come as a result of that. Because remember, this is 2021. And so it was straight after COVID era. And I just think everybody was really testy and everything was really sensitive. And I think they just thought this was a cleaner way to kind of reboot the show. And then they rebooted Roni entirely. And that was a disaster. So I don't think that her alcohol use disorder, which she refers to as her disability, I don't think that had any real, there's no real weight that they fired her because of that. They fired everybody on the show. She said that the defendants employed psychological warfare, intentionally weaponized to break Miss McSweeney's psyche, particularly when she was intimidated and prevented from visiting her dying grandma through threats to cut her pay or fire her if she left the filming location. Now, that sounds kind of bad. Again, we need context of what that conversation was. I mean, it is kind of shitty if she wants to go and spend time with her grandmother, but then also, they're threatening to cut her pay. I mean, she was making a pretty hefty paycheck listen, if they were threatening to dock me and basically saying like, probably they were like, you won't be in an episode. And so if you're not in an episode, you don't get paid for the episode. Still shitty of them to do. I'm not trying to defend them in any of this but also like, if that were my grandmother, I would not have stayed. I would have absolutely left. I wouldn't have stayed to continue filming. I would have done the decision that I felt was the best one to make, and I would stand by my choice. I wouldn't pass the buck off onto them. Okay, so the counts that he did allow to move forward, Judge Liman, a disability discrimination claim, a hostile work environment claim, and a reasonable accommodation claim. So McSweeney's reasonable accommodation claim accuses the network of failing to facilitate her participation in AA meetings while in Thailand during the filming of the Real Housewives spinoff, The Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip. So this was, yeah, the Thailand season. And so reasonable accommodation. They said that you are sober. If you come and tape the show, we'll take you to AA meetings. She claims when she got there that they did not allow her to go to AA meetings. I remember, defended against this by saying, we did give her the option to. She didn't want to. There was something in that. But I mean, when it comes to reasonable accommodations, like she ended up getting sick on that trip, and ultimately, like that, they were able to accommodate her there. So she had like a physical illness that they treated while she was in Thailand. She was sick for a lot of the trip. I remember that. She did claim that they were anti-Semitic and that, they only provided food that was cooked with pork, and obviously that's not kosher. And so I think she said this like in a way to make it seem like they were trying to starve her. They wouldn't even feed the cast members. That's how dire the situation was. Which also just kind of silly, I don't think. And the judge dismissed that. He's like, listen, it's not, no. They're not anti-Semitic because you claim that there was a lot of pork in Thailand. Like, what? You went to Thailand. Like, obviously, there's going to be a lot of pork in Thailand. So yeah, she claims that she was served non-kosher meals intentionally because of her recent conversion to Judaism. So she's basically accusing Bravo and NBC of being anti-Semitic by feeding her food cooked in pork oil. It's crazy. Zack, I love you, but very clickbaity headline. The picture you had up was Blake and Justin, and you were saying not dismissed. The judge rules on the lawsuit, insinuating it's about Blake and Justin. Well, actually, the title of the video says not dismissed. Judge rules on lawsuit plus a biased new Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni documentary. And we spent the first half of this show talking about the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni documentary, which was how the show was originally uh, marketed until the Leah McSweeney news came through, and then I updated it and put Leah's face on the cover. So it's Blake and Justin and Leah McSweeney, just as big as Justin and Baldoni. Judge Liman has ruled on both of them. I thought I clarified that at the beginning. Untreated ADHD in the house. Okay, hi. Isn't Andy Jewish? Why would he be anti-Semitic? Well, yeah, that's what was so preposterous about that one, about her claim about them being anti-Semitic. Or I guess it wasn't a direct claim, it was more of an insinuation because they were, she's like, they served me non-kosher food and there was pork everywhere. And then she claims that they try to exploit her alcohol use disorder, which is her disability, by trying to get other people to bring up her mental health issues on the show. It was all just, I mean, it's a bit of a stretch. It really is. It's a bit of a stretch. I don't know how it's gonna go though. I haven't gotten into the nitty-gritty. I don't know, do we care to read the full 100-page file? I mean, I guess we got the meat of it, and the meat of it is that he's allowed 3 of her claims to move forward. A disability discrimination claim, because she's claiming that they discriminated against her alcohol use disorder, a hostile work environment claim because it was so terrible filming these shows, and then a reasonable accommodation claim. Again, there are just so many contradictions that she's already gone on record with. There are statements that's made on Ultimate Girls Trip. There were statements that were made in her interviews when she was promoting Real Housewives of New York. I'm sure they already have all of that, but next it is moving into the discovery phase where they will get into all of the nitty-gritty. They'll get into text messages, emails, production schedules, all of that. All of that. Andy exploits power of cheese. Says Andy exploits women for money and fame. I mean, it's not just Andy. Like, it's the entire Bravo NBC family, They're all complicit in this, if you view it that way, I should say. Hey, from Sweden, Zach, love your updates on the Baldoni case and most things. 50-50 on Garcelle, though love her. Just think the girls are too cliquey. This is her Rinna LVP moment. Good for her. She's over. Yeah, I'm glad she's gone. Glad glad she's gone. Were Andy and Leah friends before? They were friendly, but I mean, he's one of the network executives. She's one of the cast members on Real Housewives. So, I mean, a lot of people like to see him as more of the boss in this case. I don't know if that is the boss. It's the dynamics have kind of shifted. He does have power over her for sure, but we'll see where this goes. Lee says if Judge Liman wrote 100 pages for the Leah McSweeney Andy Cohen, he must be writing a 1,000-page novel for Lively and Baldoni. Maybe. I think Lively had a few less allegations. Like Leah had a number of different claims that she was making. Brigitte says, to be fair, it's hard to find kosher food in countries with small Jewish populations. You can't blame Thailand. They're mostly Buddhists. Well, yeah, that's why that's why I think he threw out her case about like her claiming or alluding to them being anti-Semitic for not allowing her to have food that wasn't fully kosher. Leah was probably the worst housewife of all time. I think there were I guess the forgettable ones. She's definitely one of the more polarizing, short-lived housewives, for sure. I don't know if she's the worst, though. Lori M says, oh my gosh, I saw so much on Garcelle on TikTok, people hating Bose. So interesting to see different perspectives. It is interesting how there's so much of this hate that's going after Bose right now on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, because I just feel like it's not warranted. But also, I just feel like that's the type of, weaponized and polarized fandom that Garcelle has unleashed on people. I think this is the game that she's played, and her fans follow suit in that way. And it doesn't matter. They'll just take down whoever they want, and they'll claim racism if anybody says anything negative about Garcelle, but then they'll be so ruthless and vile against Bose and then claim that that's not rooted in racism. The double standards are insane to me. When do you think the judge will rule on Lively and Reynolds' motion to dismiss? It's taking forever. Well, for context, Leah McSweeney and Andy Cohen, their case, the last hearing was, I believe, in November, and we're in March. So, and Judge Liman is the same judge on both cases. So, if it took him from November to March in order to put together this 100-page whatever, it may take some time, which may push back it may ultimately end up pushing back the schedule. So we'll have to wait and see, because I mean, November to March to get an update on Leah McSweeney versus the Bravo parties is a long time. It may speed up, it may not. I know that we have a bunch of Discovery that's due come August and then due throughout the fall, but it is possible that that gets delayed until all of these motions are addressed, which could also be a legal tactic that Lively and Ryan Reynolds are trying to flex here. We'll see. But yeah, that's the update on Leah and Andy Cohen. That's the update on Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni in dispute. Dun dun dun. For more tea, you can always check out the Pop Report. New episodes of the Pop Report drop on Wednesdays and Fridays, so be sure to listen there. And then just a reminder to everybody to get your merch. Get your merch. Get your merch. Let's raise some money for the No More organization. We have Daddy Sleuth, Mommy Sleuth, Justice for Justin. This seems to be the most popular one. So these are limited editions. So you're going to want to get them. Yes, all merch sales through April 11th will be donated, but we have to, these items, these three at least, Daddy Sleuth, Mommy Sleuth, and Justice for Justin are limited edition. So after, once we sell out, we're selling out for good. So there's not really going to be an opportunity to get these again. So I suggest you get them now. It's like the limited edition capsule drop. So you can go to nofiltermerch.com. That's nofiltermerch.com. So get your merch, all merch between now and April 11th. I will be donating 50% of my proceeds to the No More Foundation. And that's the organization that Justin Baldoni partnered with for It Ends With Us. So at least we do something good. At least we do something good. Order it now. There's a link in the description below, or you can go to nofiltermerch.com. Place your orders. When you get them, take a pic, tag me, show me you rocking your merch. Link. Oh, here, I will give you the link. I'll post in the live chat too. That way you guys have it directly. And then this is where I leave you. Give me a follow at Just Plain Zack all over the internet. Give the podcast a follow at No Filter with Zack on Instagram. So just plain Zack and No Filter with Zack. And I will talk to you guys later. Subscribe, hit the subscribe button. Hit that. I think are we at 91,000, you guys? We are at 90.9 thousand. Oh my God. Can we hit the subscribe button? If you're not subscribed here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button right now. We're literally at 90.9. We have to hit 91 by the end of the day. That's a given. And then while we're here, let me just do a couple of quick shout outs for people that left reviews. I'll be more mindful of doing those earlier in the show, but let me just do a couple of quick shout outs for everybody in the club. Let's see, because a lot of good ones came in over the weekend. R. Carson 1986 says, "Love your podcast. New listener here. Your integrity, your integrity that you have on your podcast is very refreshing. I enjoy daily. Please create. Do you think you fell out of a coconut tree merch?" Honey Bee Dig says, "Support Zack. I just bought a Justice for Justin shirt. Yay." Loretta Robin says, "We may not agree on politics. I find Zack very good at researching and reporting. He's quite intelligent and interesting. Zack is a very hard worker and takes his job seriously with interjections of humor in his delivery." Thank you, Loretta. We have Superman's Mommy. "Always looking forward to Zack. Zack brings clear and factual information and content. He is so funny and relatable and has become one of my go-to podcasts on YouTube. And YouTube to listen to. Also, I count at how many times he says coconut tree per episode, and it's fun. That's fun. We should keep a running tally." Micken 11 says, "Love Zack. As a big Candace Owens fan, enthralled with the Blake Baldoni case. I stumbled upon Zack while looking for more content, and I'm so happy that I did. I love his honesty and the fact that he is not shy about not going with the status quo and actually shares his own genuine opinion on all sorts of topics, which is hard to find these days. Highly recommend. I look forward to listening every day." Yay. Thank you. Just an update on the Candace Owens House and Habit beef. I guess they've squashed their beef. Candace Owens reached out to House and Habit, Jessica Reed Krause, and they spoke over the weekend, and the beef, I assume, has now just been completely squashed. So that's the latest update there. We'll see what happens with the RFK blackmail. I covered that on yesterday's show, but we'll see. Love Being a Mama 619 says, "Love, love, love. This is hands down my favorite podcast. Super entertaining and makes me laugh every time. I love Zack's hot takes. Thank you for adding a smile to my face every time I listen. P.S. If you haven't checked out Zack on Cameo, that is a must. He did one for my daughter and she loved it. Zack, thank you for all the research you do and presenting it in such an entertaining way." Thank you guys. Oh my God, so many reviews came in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. I love you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow.